All right, so I'm going to do this fun little video because now it's been like a 2-year reflection since I've actually done this. On the day that this particular video comes out, it's March 14, 2024. It is my 2-year anniversary at Google. Like, actually, it lands on the perfect day because my video days are on Thursdays, and I was actually planning on filming this video. I was like, oh, what would be better than to do it on my 2-year anniversary? So for this particular video, I'm going to be, as the title or the thumbnail probably shows, what's next for me, where I'm going after Accenture. So I'm pretty sure I budgeted up the actual name, but here's the name of it. And I'm very excited because this is going to be something that might be cringe, but it might also be good. And there will always be some like updates and everything. So I'm going to be really interested to see how I'd react to this, because it's going to be like a whole reflection of like why I moved in the first place, why I did a lot of the things that I wanted to do, and then now I'm actually doing it or not doing it and giving you updates about like why I did it in the first place. But first, I got this new addition. It might be a little bit too bright. I'm gonna lower it so at least it doesn't blow out. There we go. It's so cute. I just got this. It's our little beacon of light for when we're in calls. But I thought it would be cute to just put it smack in the middle because it's my personality with cats and everything. Cats don't make my personality, but at the same time they kind of do. So I want to get started. I'm sharing my video here so that way I can actually react real time. I'm shooting from my new DJI Pocket 3 here, so I think it's like a really good quality from what I'm seeing here. So now I want to get started. Hopefully this video doesn't get all messed up, but yeah. So I'm going to get started and react here.
Today that I have special news to share, and it really is, and that is that I left Accenture. And I wanted to use this video to explain why I left Accenture, where I'm heading next. Definitely stick along to the end on where exactly I'm heading. So I've been thinking about this for a while. Like, it definitely was something that wasn't overnight, and because I really enjoyed my time at Accenture. So it wasn't something that I necessarily just like said, okay, I'm going, I'm leaving. Like, I hate Accenture. No, that was not the case. I really enjoyed my time at Accenture, and it really was something that I thought long and hard. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about my journey as to why I left, like what I ended up doing during the time that I decided, and like how I even came to decide it, as well as like looking for the next step. So from here, you guys haven't watched my video over here.
I just kind of like blundered there. Oh my god, why am I stopping here?
I did.
There we go. Now I don't look too bad. But what I did want to say though was like, I said that I did not have any ill feelings leaving Accenture, and it was truthful, but at the same time not entirely truthful. I was definitely salty because I did not get a promotion. That was the part that I omitted, but I think I just mentioned it later in the video anyways. I actually will have to watch it to make sure that I did. But I will say that yes, I enjoyed my time specifically working, but my career trajectory, I didn't entirely enjoy it because I was chosen to do Workday when the whole point of it was I was going to be in the technology development program. Not to say anything wrong about Accenture here, because I know like, yes, as a business, they need to put you where you think that you'll provide the best value in. And but like for those that were in the technology development program, I did find that people find that rewarding. So I just happened to be that anomaly where I wasn't put into that program after I was admitted to the program. So in my opinion, it means that I have a faster trajectory of getting promoted, because it means that I am specializing in an area. So you already have like an area where you're going to be the expert in whatever you're going in, versus like people won't tend to want to promote you if you're not even specialized in an area, because they don't know if you're going to be in that area. So that's what I've seen is like, the people that I've noticed that were getting promoted were either really, really good at their project, but then again, like usually your first project, you don't get to choose your project. You gotta just take it. So it's really all about luck there, and like what kind of projects you get, and what if it doesn't end up being what you wanted it to be. So in my case, I liked the work, like specifically the work, but I just didn't like my career trajectory in that area because I didn't choose Workday Financials. And number two, my only career trajectory is within Workday Financials. If it was like, let's say, overarching ERPs and I can jump around and I can do many different things, then sure. But like at the same time, that's not how consulting works. Consulting works in a way that you're specializing and you are the special. You're not the special, you're the expert to the client. But you can't really do that if you're jumping around unless there's like a particular thing that you specialize in. Maybe it's like change management, then you can kind of jump around, or maybe it's a specific industry, or maybe it's a specific type of consulting. But in this case, it was the technology, which is narrowing me in.
They talk about that I did want to go into product management, and that is still true today.
I don't want to get into product management again. Okay, so I mentioned it in a few videos, but when I've looked into what actually goes into product management and like the commitments that come with it, it sounds all cool and dandy. But then when you talk about like, oh, if something goes down on Christmas Day, you have to work because you are essentially the manager of the product. You can't just kind of ditch your job because technically you won't have coverage. You are the project manager or the product manager. The part that I'm still trying to figure out though is like, I still have to do one-on-ones with product managers within Google just to see how they would do it. But if you go on PTO or you're out of office, who covers for you? Is it your group product manager? Is it your fellow peers? Or is it someone like under you that you're, I don't know, an engineer? Probably not. But is it someone that would cover for you? Like that's the part I want to know, because I have worked with a product manager in the hotel space and he was out of office for like 3 weeks. And I'm like, how did you do that? Okay, so I kind of want to know that. And when I was working with him, I didn't have a person to talk to. So I'm like, who would it have been then? Do I have to just kind of wait and things are in limbo? But he also did choose like the holidays to go out particularly. So I don't know if that was intentional. But at the same time, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. So yeah, that's what I was thinking was like, I did not want to be in product management anymore because specifically the work-life balance. It sounds really cool, but at the same time, at the end of the day, I just want tangible product impact, and that's what I end up getting in my job.
So when I looked into that, I had two options. One was transferring within Accenture, and that would be pretty difficult to transfer in my opinion when it comes to Accenture. And I did a video here on pigeonholing yourself into technology consulting. My idea of pigeonholing is that a lot of times, depending on how far or how deep you go, you are pigeonholing yourself. But for me, because of the fact that the Workday ecosystem is pretty locked down, that like if you're certified, this is what you're going to be doing is Workday, and if you're not certified, it's hard to get into Workday. It's like it goes both ways. But because I got so many certifications, like at this point over 13 Workday certifications, and the typical is probably like 5 per person, maybe not even that many. So for me, like I really pigeonhole myself in Workday.
The funny thing is, like I did say, if I get laid off at Google or something like that, I can always go back to Accenture because they're going to be like, yeah, I invested a lot of money in you, and you apparently just do these renewals or you do these like recertifications and you got them all back. In my case, I would get like 13, 14 back. So job security.
One downside is that when I came in for the technology development program, they put me right into the Workday practice, which I had no say whatsoever. So that's actually one downside, is that if I had the choice, if I wanted to do Workday, I probably would still be at Accenture doing Workday. But because of the fact that I did not have the choice, I didn't have that say. So for that reason, it made it very hard for me to decide, like, okay, do I want to move to product management within Accenture? Do I want to do it outside? And I really actually did like reach out to everyone in like Bill's experience in Accenture Interactive for product management, learned about the practice, I really enjoyed it, and I wanted to do it. I
actually highly recommend everyone to do this because it helps you figure out your trajectory based off of their trajectory. I don't want you to think like, if this person did this, then I can do this. It's more of like their journey. How did they do it in the first place? How did they pivot? Who did they have to talk to? Like, I want you to learn more about like the lessons learned that they had as opposed to like following them step by step. Because for me particularly, I was looking into, okay, if I wanted to move internally within Accenture, what were my trajectories? And then what were the pieces that needed to fall to make that happen? Because with this specifically, you have to talk with politics. You have to like make a business case. You also sometimes have to make sure that there's like a specific process, and even so like the time even matters too, because if it was like a really busy time, it might be harder versus like it's a slow time. They think that like, okay, we can give you like 50% off it, like on a non-Workday project, that kind of thing. So I still recommend that like if you're looking into pivoting, look internally first and ask like how they've done it. People that have left, like all those emails that you probably get when people leave, or follow them on LinkedIn when they leave or when they were even like here at the company, so you can follow their journey, because sometimes that's usually where you get your best information of like, oh, so and so ended up leaving and I want to know like where they ended up going. And it's like a two-way street. You help them out with being on their network or helping out with your network. And then the other thing is like when the time comes, if the time comes, you can always talk to them and say like, hey, I saw you like pivot into tech. How did you do that? And I did have people that I was like actually following around and saw like, okay, I saw this person move to tech, or this person went to like Workday corporate, or this person ended up doing independent consulting. Like I paid attention to that kind of thing. So I know that like, okay, this is where that person ended up going. But then after that, I had calls with people on like how to actually do that in the case that I wanted to do that.
Now, one of the other reasons was that I'm in my 20s. Like I'm right now at the point of this recording, I'm 26, and I really thought long and hard about this too. Do I see myself at Accenture for many, many years to come? And I like the experience that I'm having right now, but do I see myself doing sales? Do I see myself being managing director? No, I really like being hands-on with the product, with the client, with the technology, but
I can say that hasn't changed about me. I still don't want to do sales. I'm glad that I actually work with sales, so I get some exposure to it and I still help sales. specifically with my role, but I don't actually do sales. There's still some like pitching element to it though, so it's not like I'm completely out of the way, but that's just part of consulting is when you're pitching a solution. It's not always sales that does the work for you. Like like if it's a tech company, probably it's a sales engineer, but in this case, it's like pure consulting. You're trying to use your art of persuasion and you're trying to convince the client to take the solution. It's not always like driven by sales or revenue. Sometimes it like helps drive revenue, but it's not always about revenue. Sometimes it really is like, hey, this is the suggestion. It would save you time, it would save you effort, like all that kind of stuff. And it would help improve the relationship between you and the client. So for me specifically, I would say that I still don't want to do sales. I still don't want to be a managing director. Just mostly because like I like working with clients and I like actually showing like some kind of tangible impact, as I said earlier. So if I were to be with a manager or managing director, my role would be mostly managerial or strategic in a company standpoint, not so much with a client. So in my opinion, I think if I were to like do the same thing, I like to see the work that I'm doing happen, you know? There's also ways though, like if you're a manager, you can scale the work that you're doing. You can set up like OKRs or work streams or strategy and have your team follow suit. So you can actually roll that out and say like, look, what this particular strategy, instead of like, let's say you have $1 million book, you just increase the revenue to like 1.5. But instead, if you have a whole team and you have a particular strategy that you use to be able to do that, you can say you 10x the revenue. So instead of like $100 million book of business or something like that, it can become 1 billion just from the work that you're doing because you were specifically being very strategic. Depending on how you see it, but for me specifically, I like to like the work that I'm doing and not just like the results that come out, even though those results are the ones that end up getting you promoted. So there's like baby steps in my opinion. I don't want to do that right away. At least I want to be able to like make my way up so I get to get that experience as opposed to like jumping for the sake of compensation. Yeah, compensation helps, but I want to also see that like I'm actually doing something and be on the ground running, you know? But for me, I don't really do sales, but I still do the pitching part. I don't want to be a manager yet. And if I want to be a manager, I would want to be more like a product manager as opposed to like a people manager. I still like working with people, you know, but I still like to have like a tangible impact on something.
As higher you go, the more administrative, the more managerial you get, and to a certain extent, I like that, but I don't want that to be my main job. And as you go higher, that's what you're going to have to expect. And for me, like when I thought about that, I was like, okay, do I want to do that? And for me, I didn't want to. I wanted to be more hands-on with the product, see to the end. I don't care if I don't get like chief product officer. I would prefer to just have more self-fulfillment work with the product itself or with technology. And then the other one was financial worth, and I know like everyone talks about this is that like to get that leap, to get that financial gain, you need to jump other companies. And for me, that was like the lowest one I had on my radar. Like I just like was okay with doing the same pay as when I'm getting at Accenture.
So I ended up getting, just to be a little bit more honest here, because I didn't share the numbers, so it doesn't really matter here. My base pay was only a few thousands, like single digit thousands less than my Accenture one. But you get equity, you get bonuses that are way more than at Accenture. Like just to give you some context, for the people that I know at Accenture, the percentage of bonuses varied from 0%. So there's times you could get no bonus, 0% to 9%. And like 9% was the highest that I've seen or heard at least. At Google, your target per bonus rate could be minimum 15% if you like meet expectations or whatever. And then it could go higher from that. So even though my base salary was just slightly below Accenture's, the bonus and the equity made up for it, in my opinion. I treat the equity as like a bonus. I don't really treat it as like a salary, but I still live below my means for salary specifically. But I just use the bonus as kind of like, oh, money's just sitting in the bank account, or like money's just sitting in my brokerage account, and I don't really do anything about it. But yeah, that's just like a little information about that.
So that's the case. Like jumping to different companies is still going to be more fulfilling than if I stayed in the same company to get that experience of like, oh, with different types of business models, different types of people, areas within a company, or even just different companies in general altogether. So that was something that really drove it. The financial gain from jumping from company to company is also something. I even did a poll right over here on my Instagram of like, are you the type of person to stay at a company for a long period of time out of loyalty, or are you a person to jump from company to company for like other different reasons like finance?
So for Google, I think I'm choice A still, and it's mostly because golden handcuffs. The perks, the compensation, the role is very good. If I were to look at other places, it has to do a lot more than that, to be honest. So I know like people do say jump around for roles to get better compensation, but for me, I'm not. The thing is like my issue with Accenture, I was content. because I didn't necessarily choose Workday Financials, but I was like, all right, you know, it's easy to stay here, work my way up kind of thing. But at Google, I actually like the work that I'm doing. I chose the role that I'm going for. The hotel ads actually is like a new addition that I didn't really choose, but I actually like the work that I'm doing. It's like actually close to my goals. So I prefer that actually. But when it comes to that, I would say, I was like, okay, I am going to stay here. And while initially I was going to say like, I'm going to jump around. I'm like, if the right opportunity comes, I will consider it, but I'm not going to jump around.
One of the things I hate the most about doing that like post-production support thing that I want to do is that at least in the implementation we do the the minimal viable product, the one that you need to be able to go live. But then you have all these other edge cases or use cases that are not typically considered, but they're just as important. They're just not prioritized, and those are the ones that typically Workday has some kind of limitation on.
So I think this is interesting to kind of reflect back on, because now that I'm like actually in my role a little bit more, and I've done like shopping and hotels. So the whole point of what I was just saying was that like, oh, we get limitations and we can't really do anything about it. To a certain extent, you know, like we can't do everything, or tech companies can't do everything a customer wants. But what I did say though is like, I have more of that at Google, because I actually work at Google, as opposed to like, here's feedback to Workday and it will never see the light of day. But for this, like, I actually had situations where I was able to share feedback from the client and get something done, or a bug specifically, and get that fixed, or like a workaround within days, which, while if it was like at Workday, like it would probably never get resolved, it would probably never be seen by someone. So that part I actually found really fulfilling. There's even times that I'm like messaging my manager and like, oh my God, I was able to do this. Ooh, and let her know, or let him know, depending on like which manager I was with at the time. But I was like, that I find very fulfilling, because it shows that I have some kind of tangible impact on a client, and not to mention on a product, because it will probably affect others. I just realized I have pixie lights going on, but like, why are mine not turned on?
They leave. But I also, vice versa, spoke to people internally at Accenture with areas I was interested in. First of all, was like Workday, see like people within actual practice and see like, is that what I see myself? Maybe like I came with misconceptions about what my career would look like in Workday, like as leadership. And then from there, I also had a decision like, okay, is this what I see myself doing? No. And then for me, I was like, okay, let's think about like leaving Workday now. And I looked at the people that have gone from the Workday practice to like innovation design, or that they've done, they're even doing a transfer right now for product management. And I looked to say, how did you do it? Like, why are you leaving? Or what's your experience like? And I also spoke to a lot of people in the build interactive digital products, product management area as well. So like introduce myself and vice versa. They introduce themselves to me, and I see like, what are the projects out there, activities? Like, is that what I envision myself doing? Is it exactly what I thought it would be doing? And in a lot of cases it was, but as I said, it's all about timing, which leads to the next part. So in terms of recruitment, there's like two ways that I did it. One was like actual recruiters reaching out to me on LinkedIn, and the other way was that I was applying for a lot of positions as well. And for me, when I was applying, I only applied for product management. So any other roles that came to me that were non-product management were because recruiters reached out to me. And actually, what I ended up doing was like I changed my LinkedIn a little bit. I removed almost everything related to Workday in my.
If you want to check out my video over here, I actually talked about like how to pivot from like your resume, and the same thing would happen to your LinkedIn, because it's like technically like a digital extended version of your resume. But for me, like I did a lot of like what that particular video said to do that. I just didn't go into detail here.
I started to open myself for work on LinkedIn, actively, not the flexible one. And I chose like the roles I was interested in, which was product manager, program manager, associate product manager, junior product manager, basically opening myself up for everything. I realized that later on that I was like technically I qualified for a lot of the associate or junior product manager roles, but the compensation was nowhere close, because my compensation at Accenture would not match up to those roles.
And I did want to say that like the compensation for those roles were good, okay? But they were compared to Accenture. And when I'm saying that, I'm like, I'm not saying that Accenture was compensation was amazing, because I talked about like how the bonus structure and there's no equity involved for that. But I would say though that it's like with Accenture, the pay is still up there. Like even with good roles out there, it's not like tech pay, but it's still a really good pay. So I'm not giving the numbers here. I think I've like somewhat gave it in the like salaries for consultants video, which will be over here. But for this, I will say like the pay was still not low. It just meant like it was lower than Accenture, and Accenture was pretty good. But for me, I like wanted to be at or above, because I knew like with tech, like it's generally going to be higher. It just happens that like, of course, the roles that I ended up getting were all like more startup-y kind of roles, because if you're in a more like established company, they're going to want you to have more credentials, and they're going to track more talent, of course. So that was like the issues that I was facing.
Instead, I had to do product manager. And in January, like I actually did receive an offer for a product manager role at one of the companies that I applied for. And unfortunately, the compensation wasn't necessarily there, so I had to say no. But it wasn't just for that reason. It was also for many other reasons. Like I would technically be the second product manager in that entire.
And I can give a little bit more information about that now. The base salary they offered was 100K. I wanted more than 100K. Oh my God. Woo! dinosaurs like going under my laptop. I wanted more than 100K. I wanted like at least 110K. And it was options as well, so it's not the same as like RSUs, where because this startup was essentially like a startup. It wasn't live or public or anything like that, so it was not as flexible. Like options, I essentially kind of equate that to zero. Like you don't know when you're actually going to be able to exercise them. You don't know when they're actually going to ever go public, if they ever go public. So with the kind of scale of that company, I was like, okay, I don't think that you're going to actually go public, because when I look at the ones that, like, let's say if you were in Robinhood before IPO, like that, I would probably say like, yeah, I'll take the options. But with this company, they were so early stage that I was like, I'm not so sure if they're going to ever get public. I don't even think that they would have the scale to get there.
A lot of them was like really what helped me see that I was lacking in a few areas to be product manager. I did.
Okay, the way I'm going to structure this is like where I lacked as a product manager, and I'm going to talk about if I've been able to compensate for like what I lacked through my current job.
Not lack of associate product manager in a lot of ways, but I still didn't have the compensation didn't match up. So I knew that to be able to be a product manager where it would match up to the compensation that I was looking for in New York City, at least, that's where I saw like, okay, what are the areas that I'm lacking in? And that's working with engineers.
I do work with engineers in an indirect way. I work with product managers, and I work with like through bugs as well. I do work with engineers. The way that the particular interview was asked about was like, did you work as a product manager kind of standpoint with engineers, not just work with engineers? So can you communicate with engineers? I have, however, worked with engineers on the client side to implement something. So to that extent, I have worked with engineers versus when I was at Accenture, I didn't work a single engineer. I worked with like IT, and I worked with the financial team from like the client side and like our implementation side, which is basically like consultants. But I never worked with an engineer specifically. Here, I've actually worked with engineers, but I don't know if I worked in particular bandwidth that they're looking for when it comes to product managers. But I have worked with engineers from the client's standpoint and also from internally as well.
Working in an environment where you're working in a tech company.
I'm at a tech company, so I got that one checked off.
Or in anything like that, or in general, like working with a product team.
I have worked with a product team actually, with specifically when it comes to hotel ads. I've worked with like a product operations manager. They're not technically part of the product team, but they do work with the product team for the shopping side. But the hotel ad side is the part where I have actually touched this area.
But for me, like if I were to leave Accenture, it would have to be a product management role, or it would be a role that's very closely related to the product team that like has some kind of way that the company itself either would give me leverage to be able to go into product management, or just in general, like, whatever I want to do. Because maybe I don't want to do product management, maybe I want to do UX engineering or UX design, anything like that.
I actually still am interested in UX engineering or UX designing. I do know a few interaction designers or UX designers. So I did say that this is going to be a whole separate video on like things that I personally need to work on this particular year, but I have been doing one-on-ones with people now in like the actual product areas of my team. But there's also a section of like roles that are not in product or in the roles that I'm doing right now to learn about like how it's like, because I've like worked with Derek. Like if you looked at the videos over here on like me interviewing him, that was like when he wasn't at Google. So now it's a little bit different.
Well, beginning of February, I had 3 offers, and that's where I really decided, like, okay, none of them were product management roles, but one of them promised me that
So my hiring manager at the time actually promised me that he'll help me through product, and yeah, like he did promise me, he did help me on that, but as I said, I ended up deciding against it. So I actually was kind of curious about like if I were to follow through, like how would it worked. But from what I've seen when I'm like now internally at Google, it is actually easy to go around the company, but it's still difficult too because you still need the qualifications. It's not like they're going to be a little bit more lax in the qualifications because you're internal. It just means that between an internal and external hire, they're gonna pay more attention to the internal hire. So I still got work to do on that side. So, and because I said no to product management, I don't know how it would be.
So finally, I got the offer to this one. I signed the offer. The reveal is that I am going to be starting on March 14th in advertising solutions architect at Google. So I'll still be based in New York. I'll still be doing very similar actually to what I'm doing right now at Accenture, but instead of working with Google Shopping. And from this role, like I would work with the sales.
I will say it is very similar, but if you haven't seen my video over here, this is like what I actually do. There's still very different nuances between like doing Workday consulting at Accenture versus doing like actual Google Shopping consulting at Google.
So when I realized that Google Recruiter reached out to me, I was like, I had to do it. Like, why wouldn't I do it? And this is why I was like, from the very beginning, before I was even actively looking, I interviewed. But the interview process took a long time. So that video will be coming up soon as to like what the actual interview process was like.
Let me know down below if you want me to actually commentary or react to that video as well.
and then start at Google on March 14th. And it's going to be the Advertising Solutions Architect Google Shopping Ads team based in New York out of their G Tech Professional Services. So I'm very excited. I've always been wanting Google, and I can't believe that it finally happened. And to me, like when I said, okay, technically I had like these 3 offers, but if I had Google, I'm taking it. I don't care. If the compensation's a little bit pay cut, I don't care.
And as I said, the base pay is a little bit lower, but I did say that, I don't think I said it actually, but I did get a pay raise, and now it's actually higher than the Accenture one. So it worked out. It worked out. So yeah, that is it. I'm glad that this is coming out on my 2-year anniversary, off to my 3rd-year anniversary, hopefully. But I will say though, like, I don't regret my decision. If you check out my video here, I talk about like where I ended up deciding, like, do I regret Accenture? Do I regret leaving Accenture for Google? Do I regret Google, period? Check out that video. It's a little bit more interesting on that particular standpoint because there's very different changes. Some are welcome, some are not. So I personally thought it was like a really fun experience to react to this because it shows how much has changed within 2 years. And when I recorded that video, I wasn't working at Google. I was still at Accenture, or actually I think I was at Accenture at the time, or that I was like in between when I left. But I think this was while I was still at Accenture and no one knew. It was like keeping a secret about where I was gonna go. But yeah, so for me, I thought this was a really rewarding experience because, as I mentioned in this video, I was actually able to get what I wanted to get out of Google. Now it's just a matter of what's my next step. So I have definitely check out my next video because the next video is going to be on, well, I'm actually going to take a hiatus. I'm going my honeymoon, and we are doing a lot on like 16 days in Japan, 5 days in Singapore. I thought about if I should record videos and send it out, but then being in a completely different time zone and being able to engage with you all, I just decided to just like, I'll just make it a break. I'm not going to have any videos out, but I will have a video scheduled, and this is the video I'm going to talk about, which is on like things that I personally need to work out on my career as a reflection for this year, because there's a few things that came out that I still know that I need to work on. And I feel like people who watch these videos probably think like, oh, Christina's like really good, that's why she's like making these videos. No, I still got things I gotta work on, and I want to be completely transparent with you all so you can help me be accountable for it too, on like things that I need to work on. So definitely check out that video, but for now, subscribe because there's going to be a lot more content on this. I'm also going to be doing my Japan vlogs. I think I'm going to do like little snippets of like Japan vlogs depending on the location, and then also Singapore will probably be 1 to 2 videos, I don't know. But yeah, so see you guys next time. Follow me on Instagram if you want to see my entire like Japan Singapore journey without having to wait for the vlog. So definitely do that. All right, see you guys next time.